Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, led the United States through the Civil War, a fight over slavery and the nation's future. He became a hero in the North for preserving the Union and ending slavery, but in the South, many saw him as a destroyer. Among Lincoln's fiercest enemies was John Wilkes Booth, a famous actor and passionate supporter of the Confederacy. Booth's hatred for Lincoln was personal. He blamed him for the South's defeat and the loss of their way of life. Booth's anger grew into obsession. He saw Lincoln as a tyrant and himself as a potential avenger for the South. He dreamed of a dramatic act that would make him a hero in Southern eyes. Booth's thoughts turned dark. He decided that only Lincoln's death could avenge the Confederacy. This decision set in motion a chain of events that would shock the nation. Booth was not a soldier, but he wanted to strike a blow that would be remembered forever. He imagined himself as a tragic hero, ready to change history with one violent act. The stage was set for a national tragedy. Booth's hatred would soon become action. The fate of a nation would hang in the balance. Booth's plan was no longer just talk, it was deadly intent. The story of Lincoln and Booth was about to reach its terrible climax. The world would never be the same. Booth's first plan was to kidnap Lincoln and trade him for Confederate prisoners. He gathered a group of conspirators, Confederate sympathizers and desperate men. They tried to ambush Lincoln, but their plans failed again and again. The war ended, the Confederacy surrendered. Booth's hopes were crushed. After hearing Lincoln speak about black voting rights, Booth's anger exploded. He declared, "That is the last speech he will ever make." Booth's plot turned from kidnapping to murder. He decided to kill not just Lincoln, but also Vice President Johnson and Secretary of State Seward, hoping to throw the government into chaos. Booth assigned his men their targets. He would kill Lincoln himself. The plan was set. The conspirators prepared for a night that would change America. Booth's hatred had become a deadly mission. The countdown to tragedy had begun. The nation was unaware of the storm about to break. On April 14, 1865, Lincoln attended a play at Ford's Theater. Booth, familiar with every corner of the building, saw his chance. That night, Lincoln sat in the state box with his wife and friends. Booth slipped inside the theater, nerves steeled by brandy. He waited for the perfect moment, a line in the play that would make the audience roar with laughter. As laughter filled the theater, Booth entered the box, aimed his pistol, and fired at Lincoln's head. Major Rathbone tried to stop him, but Booth slashed him with a knife. Chaos erupted as Booth prepared to escape. The president was mortally wounded. Booth's act was complete, but his escape was just beginning. The theater was plunged into panic. Booth's final performance had begun. The nation's leader lay dying. The world changed in a single, shocking moment. Booth leaped from the box to the stage, breaking his leg as he landed. He shouted, "Sic semper tyrannis, thus always to tyrants," and fled through the chaos. The audience, stunned, realized the horror unfolding before them. Booth escaped out the back, mounted a waiting horse, and rode into the night. He crossed a guarded bridge out of Washington, wounded but determined. Back at the theater, doctors rushed to Lincoln, but his wound was fatal. The president was carried to a nearby house where he would spend his final hours. News of the assassination spread rapidly. Soldiers began the largest manhunt in American history. Booth's co-conspirators failed. Only he had struck his target. The nation was in shock and mourning. Booth was now the most wanted man in America. The chase was on. The tragedy was far from over. For 12 days, Booth and David Harold evaded capture, hiding with help from Confederate sympathizers. Booth's broken leg slowed them, and the escape became a desperate struggle. The manhunt ended at Garrett's farm in Virginia, where Union soldiers surrounded a tobacco barn. Harold surrendered, but Booth refused. The soldiers set the barn on fire to force Booth out. Booth, defiant to the end, was shot by a Union soldier as flames closed in. Paralyzed and dying, Booth was dragged from the burning barn. His last words, "Useless, useless." The assassin's story ended in fire and defeat. Lincoln was mourned as a martyr. Booth was remembered as a villain. The nation began to heal, but the scars of that night would last forever. The tragedy of Lincoln's assassination changed America. The echoes of that night still haunt history.